Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the Railway and welcome back to yet another instalment of the Model Railway News, this time for March, and there are lots of updates to share with you this month. Quite a lot has happened over the last 30 days or so, so there's a lot to share. First things first though, I thought I would address the elephant in the room because I've had quite a lot of comments and emails over the last week or so asking me, are the latest models, are the latest products going to get delayed? Now, I should stress that I am not a manufacturer, I'm not a retailer, I'm not even an industry insider, so I'm definitely not the best person to ask. However, the answer to the question seems to be yes from what I've read. For instance, I got an update from KR Models, and in it they claimed that their factory was 40% operational. Now, don't get me wrong, 40% operation at the moment seems to be pretty decent. I was expecting that number to be much lower, in fact possibly zero. Although it does seem that China do seem to be finding their feet a little bit now. The situation seems to be better over there and the dust is starting to settle. However, if 40% capacity is typical for all model railway factories, then no doubt, yes, we will be seeing some delays. At the moment, if you look at Hornby.com though, none of the ETAs seem to have changed an awful lot for now, although that certainly doesn't mean that they won't change, and no doubt because it is still early days at the moment, Hornby themselves may not know just the extent of those delays. So the best thing to do really would just to be keep an eye on the products you're interested in, sign up for mailing lists if you can do that, and just keep your fingers crossed and hope for the best. There have also been some closures in the industry as well. On their latest live stream, Hatton's announced that their physical store has now been closed. As far as I know, it is purely a precautionary measure. There's no sort of incident that I'm aware of, and their online shop is still taking orders, and I believe they're still shipping orders as well. But it is good to see that people are reacting, so obviously just consider it a good thing, even though it's not a great situation. But my message is a bit less business-like. It's just look after yourselves and take care. If you've got time off, obviously it's not ideal, but just make the most of it and try to take a little bit of a break and take it easy. Okay, enough about that. Let's get on to business then and start, as I often do, with a bit of an update from Hornby, because they do have one or two new products in stock. One of them is, of course, a real showstopper. It is the Princess Royal, which is now in stock. There's a couple of versions, the Crimson Lake, like the one that I've got here, and there's also a few BR Blue versions in. I reviewed mine. If you want to check out the review, there is a link up there for you. Generally speaking, I was really impressed with it. It is a fantastic model. It wasn't without issues, so if you're thinking of getting one, I would recommend checking out the review just so that you can make an informed decision, but generally speaking, it's a really impressive model. If you're not in the market for a super detailed and super expensive model, Hornby have also just released the latest version of their Dean single, as you can see here, which I've also reviewed. You can find the link to that if you haven't seen it already. Yep, obviously this model had a few more issues, but generally speaking, even though some people didn't, I really quite like this one. I've got a lot of nostalgia for these models, and I know a lot of other people do as well. So those are some of the new arrivals at Hornby. In the latest episode of Hornby's Signal Box, they demonstrated some amazing features that the upcoming Hm6000 controller is going to have. That's the Bluetooth DC controller, of course, and I really do mean amazing. Some of those features blew me away, more or less. So they have the ability to set minimum and maximum speed ranges, which gives you maximum control over all of your locos, even those that start at higher voltages. The controller can adapt for that. It also has inertia simulation, which I've talked about before. Basically, that just enables you to alter the rate of acceleration or deceleration, which previously is mainly only available with DCC. It has a proper emergency stop function with the ability to make adjustments before resuming, which is fantastic, and I'd like to see any of my other DC controllers match that. The app has the ability to add photos for your model so that you know which loco you're actually trying to control, and you've got an image to help you do that. And there's even a track planning software included too, which is just amazing. And they also verified that each Hm6000 unit is able to control up to 2 circuits of track. That's not something I was too sure about. I didn't know if it was 1, 3 or whatever, although of course the app does have the facility to control more if you buy more units, which is pretty cool. The Hornby Engine Shed blog also showed a few updates, really quite interesting ones too, mainly about the Hornby Standard 2MT project. They showed some pretty interesting photos of the team surveying the locomotive way back in 2018, and they also showed some first engineering samples too, which are looking really impressive, with no small amount of die-cast on them as well, as those images demonstrate. Hopefully that will be true on the final production model. That would be amazing to see. They've also released some decoration guides too, which give a little bit more detail on the various liveries. That's pretty unprecedented. I love that they've started to do that. We can see what some of those painted details are going to look like way before the models are released, which of course will allow for people to submit feedback and that sort of thing, I would imagine, to make sure that the models are perfect when they go out. There's also some updates on the upcoming Class A2/3. They've showed the final CADs, which now includes smoke deflectors and more accurate running gear, so that will definitely give you a better idea of how the final model is going to look. And just like with the 2MT, they've shown some of the decoration guides too, the LNER green one, as you can see here. Really can't wait to see the first engineering prototype samples of those. That's going to be fantastic to see. Next up then, quite a major announcement from Dapol, a Steam announcement, which I know a lot of people will be really happy about. They've announced a brand new model of the Great Western Manor class in 00 gauge, which is set for release in 2021. Now, these days, if you want a Manor class, your best and probably only option in 00 gauge, besides kit builds, are the pretty old-fashioned, by modern standards, Bachmann Manor class Locos, which are split chassis, very limited detail. Mine, as you can tell, doesn't look all that fantastic, especially compared to the sort of modern Hornby 460s and such. So a brand new Manor class is really exciting for the hobby, I would say. There are going to be 7 different versions available initially. They're all variations on Great Western Green, BR Green and BR Black. And there are quite a lot of exciting features that Dapol have promised with these as well, quite similar to the D-Class that they're producing with Rails of Sheffield and the NRM. So they're supposed to have a tool-free decoder installation, as we saw with the D-Class, which looks really simple to do, nice and easy. They're going to have the facility for speakers, of course, DCC sound. They're going to have a die-cast chassis, or a die-cast compensated chassis, I believe is the wording they used, and super detailed features such as firebox glow effects, which is something that Dapol have pretty much made the norm in the hobby. So that's really exciting. The RRP for those is £159.95, which is obviously a lot of money, but it's no more expensive and sometimes less so than Hornby 460s of a similar level of detail. And of course the price from the retailers is a little bit less as well. Most of them are offering pre-orders for £135, which is indeed cheaper than some of Hornby's, even some of Hornby's better Great Western 460s. The Star Class, for example, is quite a bit more expensive than that. Either way, it does seem that the new Dapol Manor is at least competitively priced, and I cannot wait to see how those turn out. Next up, an update from Bachmann then. They have at least one new model in stock. It is the brand new Class 24, which is now with the retailers. They have an RRP of £159.95, which is obviously pretty expensive, although they are for sale from Rails of Sheffield for as little as £127.50, which is definitely the going rate for a modern diesel. And so to say it's Bachmann, I would say that sounds like a reasonable price. I haven't got one, so I can't say for sure, but I have heard great things about them. So if you decide to pick one up, let me know down in the comments what those are like. I'd be really interested to know. Next up, I had a notification from Rails of Sheffield to say that the price had changed for my Bachmann 1P, the Johnson 1P that is, that I had pre-ordered with them. The RRP now being £149.95, and my Rails pre-order would now cost £127.45. So if you're in the same boat, you may well have had a similar email. You have to confirm whether or not you actually want to proceed because of the increase in price. Obviously, it's a lot of money for a relatively small tank engine, so needless to say, the expectations are high. They now have proper images of the samples on their website as well, showing the Midland Railway version, which is, of course, the one I went for. But there's also an LMS Black and BR Black variant as well, which you can see, and they do look very smart, it must be said. So now that the images are out there for the world to see, we can really look forward to those models coming out. Yeah, high expectations, as I say, but no doubt those will be met. Next up then, a bit of an update from Hattons, because the company news page on their website says that the main batch of Class 66s are due in stock by the end of March, which means that if you missed out on those initial pre-orders and the initial delivery, you should now be able to get your hands on one if that's something you want to do. I do have a review of one of them. I was really impressed with the one that I got sent, and if you want to check it out, I will include a link up there for you. Also, where Hattons are concerned, they've begun offering a new range called Hattons Essentials, which has on offer various different tools and accessories, oiling pens for instance, screwdrivers, track pins, wire, and they all seem to be pretty reasonably priced. So if you need model railway supplies, go check those out and see if there's anything that you could use in the new range. Rails of Sheffield have posted a bit of an update on their upcoming 18,000 Class Gas Turbine. It is more specifically the engineering body samples which they've been showing for the first time, I believe, and obviously for the first time also this gives a pretty good idea of what the models are going to look like. So far we've not heard an awful lot about those, so it's nice to see that the project is coming along. They're produced by Helgen, I believe, so hopefully those will be good. They are pretty expensive, but hopefully they will be worth it. I suppose we'll know more about that as the project continues, but it's good, as I say, to see that that is progressing well. One or two updates have come through from Oxford Rail as well. They've showed some early CAD images for their 10-ton vans that they recently announced, which are going to be available for £13. And as you can tell, for 13 quid, they are looking pretty decent so far. There's quite a lot of detail to see, even on the CADs, which is fantastic. And they've also announced that they're going to be making more railguns, the Gladiator ones. So if you missed out on the first batch, you should be able to get some if you want them. And as you know, my review really did quite well when I reviewed my Bosch Buster, and I really loved the model. So that's a model I can highly recommend. If you're interested in getting it, I would certainly recommend looking it up. So there have been a lot of engineering samples on display this month. The next one is one from Helgen showing their upcoming Class 45 peak locomotives. Now, even though those are very, very basic engineering samples, you can sort of tell that it's going to put my lovely Bachmann one here to shame. And I absolutely love the Bachmann one. So given how much I love it, I can only imagine what a super detailed modern one is going to be like. And they are looking good. As you can see, the level of detail seems to be really, really impressive. And they're not dreadfully expensive. You can make a pre-order for these for as little as £143, and obviously for a loco that's considerably larger than the likes of the 24. I mean, they are huge diesels. Look at the size of that. That doesn't sound too bad, provided of course the quality is good, and hopefully it will be. Helgen's diesels do tend to be pretty decent. So yeah, keep an eye on that one and we'll see what that one is like. Finally then, the poll section seemed to go down really, really well last month, so I've decided to do that again. So here are 4 of the most interesting polls. The first one comes from my Princess Royal class review, the brand new Hornby one of course. I asked you guys how you would score the model out of 5, and here's what you said. As you can see, most people voted 5-star, which gives a community score of 8.87 out of 10, which is slightly higher than the 8.48 out of 10, which was my personal score. And yes, as you can see, over 50% of you rated the model 5 stars, and I agree, it is a fantastic model. Next up, the next poll I want to talk about was from the Bachmann pillbox review I did. I asked you guys whether the Bachmann pillbox brake van was worth the RRP of £33.95. 90% of you, which is a pretty overwhelming majority, said that no, the model was not. However, most commenters indicated that the Rails of Sheffield heavily reduced price of £17.50 was much more reasonable, and I agree, I was really happy with the brake for that. Well, 48 in fact percent off. So overall, not too bad there. Next up, a poll from the Helgen 1361 class video. Obviously, I did not like the model at all. I had a lot of problems with mine and I thought the quality was really, really poor. It is one of my most critical reviews. So having shared my opinions on the model and of course supplying the visual evidence to support those opinions, I asked you guys whether the 1361 was a good model or a bad model, and 92% agreed with me that the model was a poor one. And of course, I'm not surprised by that result at all. I myself was absolutely gutted by the model. Finally then, on my O-Gauge video, I asked you guys which O-Gauge locomotive you'd like me to buy and review first. The overwhelming winner, as you can see here, was the Dapol Terrier. It was by far the most popular option, and so I have decided that that will be my first proper O-Gauge review, which I'm actually really, really excited about. So I've got one on order. I will be reviewing it soon, so if you're interested in that, definitely keep an eye out. For now though, folks, that is all the news I have to share with you. I wasn't lying, there definitely was an awful lot to get through. I hope you enjoyed hearing all of the updates, and I hope you continue to enjoy modelling. So, as I say, see you very, very soon, folks. Take care of yourselves, please be careful out there, and look after yourselves mainly. I'll see you very soon, you take care, and I'll see you on the next one.